When we are speaking about APIs, just I want to understand that the API, it is the interface between the services in the cloud service provider and the consumers. In other words, if we are saying that a cloud service provider, he is providing a storage service or cloud service, for example, as box.com or iCloud.com or OneDrive.com, whatever. All these sites, we are providing storage services. We know that. But how you are interact with these services, how you are able to connect to these services, we are able to connect by multiple methods. Number one, it can be in form of browser, www.box.com. Then type your credentials, you have a screen, then you can download, upload files. Or you can download agent or application from the internet, where you can access it on Google or Android, I mean, or iOS. Or you can access it through Windows, where it's doing synchronization in the background. All these methods are considered as application interface to the services. When Prem he start to explain it, I am afraid that Prem he is concentrating on the problems, how we are considered as risks in the cloud and all this stuff. This is great, and this information it's required. But now we are speaking about definitions. I want to make sure that you are understanding the definition. Okay. Next question: what is the difference between REST and SOAP APIs? Okay. In REST and SOAP APIs, of course, we mentioned that REST it is more stable than SOAP. REST it support XML. SOAP it support HTTP and FTP. REST it support the caching, and this it will increase the performance. SOAP does not support caching, and of course this it will have some performance degradation. It is very important to understand that it is highly recommended to use REST, except if you have an old application or some application which you will not be able to use the REST when you are using SOAP, for example, for backward compatibility. You have an application and this application interface, it's not compatible with REST, for example, when it is using SOAP, whatever the reasons, but this is the main differences between the REST and SOAP. What is the main, of course, this it's check spelling problem, main, not male. Main difference between SOAP and REST. Performance, redundancy, data format, protocols. Of course, it is not protocols. It is not protocols. We agreed that it can be performance or data format. Because performance, as we mentioned, SOAP does not support caching, REST support caching. Protocols, we don't have the sorry, I mean not the data format, it is the protocols. Protocols, it's right one, because this is in SOAP it is support FTP, HTTP, REST support HTTPS. But when we say main difference, it will not protocols. Main difference, it will be the caching, and this is the most important thing. SOAP API is preferred more than REST in cloud application. Of course not. No, it is not. There is no difference. Both are APIs. No, they are not the same. One of them support different protocols. They are supporting some related to performance. Then they are not the same. But yes, they are not the REST. It's not preferred. The SOAP it's not preferred. REST it's the preferred one. REST API supports FTP protocol. REST API support FTP protocol. No, it is not. REST is supporting FTP. REST support HTTP only. The FTP it is supported by SOAP. FTP is supported by SOAP. As a security professional, what are the concerns which you may consider in migration on-prem application to cloud infrastructure? Of course, this question, gentlemen, it is very complicated question, because this is I'm asking about the risks, and this of course you have you will not find such of these questions in the exams, but just I want you to refresh your information. You will find the answer of this question maybe about 6 or 7 steps in the book. But let's make brainstorming together. What are the concerns you may consider in migrating on-prem application to cloud infrastructure? Number one, the data security. If the application is ready to be moved into the cloud, the data privacy and what are the laws and regulations for the jurisdiction which it hosts the data. Do you require encryption? How you will manage the keys? What is the underlying infrastructure? Is it secure or not? The data storage and its protection, a lot of risks which you can find. And of course, if you refer to the previous if you refer to our previous recording, you will find these informations are explained in details. What is OWASP? What is the top 10 list? Of course, OWASP, we agree that it is a non-profit organization, and we are working to improve the cloud, not cloud, the web applications. Top 10 list, these top 10 lists, we are the vulnerabilities, top 10 vulnerabilities in the browsers. Top 10 list, we are the vulnerabilities related to web browsers or web applications, not web browsers. And of course, this is very important for anyone who is working in development, because he has to understand what are the risks and threats which it can threaten its their application, and how we have to work very closely from the first phase of the SDLC to make the application secure and to define all the security requirements for this application. Take in very consideration this information about the top 10 list for the browser or the web applications or web-based applications. Which phase in SDLC should security requirements should be highlighted? Which phase in SDLC should security requirements should be highlighted? We agreed, gentlemen, that it should come in all the phases. And this is the main difference between secure SDLC and the normal SDLC. Normal SDLC, when the developer starts to develop the application, we are not caring at all about the security. But at the end, when the application it is totally completed and finished, then they start to check, is it secure or not? And this, of course, it's a wrong concept, because if you will find that there are some bugs and you will try to improve it, it will be a crisis. How much you will spend, and in some situation, it may be very expensive to solve the problem and so on. Here, as we can see, but here in the question, it is very clear that which phase is not mentioned, phases or whatever. Then this means that when we say which phase is SDLC, then it should be in the first phase, which is the requirement gathering and visibility. It should be in the requirement gathering and visibility, because this is the first phase. Then you have to understand that it should be in all the phases, it should be in all the phases. And if, as in this question, it's mentioned one phase only, then this means that you have to highlight the first phase, which is the requirement gathering and visibility. This, it will start to collect the security requirements. In the other phases, it may be checking, analysis, testing, the security phases after that. What is the best approach for testing new developed application? Okay. I think as Sanat he mentioned, unit and integration test. Okay, this is a good definition. What do you mean by unit and integration test? As we mentioned, gentlemen, applications, it can be very complicated and it should be split into modules where each developer, he is working on one of these modules. Each developer must make a test on his own module to make sure that it's developed in a proper way. Then to integrate all these modules together to develop, make the application, and the final stage to test the whole application as a unit unit application, as a single application. Then this it will be the best approach for testing the applications. Okay, I think we finished, and it's 85% the accuracy, and this is considered a good start. Any questions before starting our session for today? Okay, good. Now, gentlemen, we will continue our session for the application security. We are in module number 4, where we are discussing the application security. And we mentioned some of the important factors and what are the consideration which we have to take it to move into the cloud or migrate the application into the cloud. And we mentioned that this step, it is very critical because it is not a forklift. It is not a forklift where you have to move some application from one side into other side. What we have to do, this it will be very critical. You have to understand how you are able to migrate the application. Do we need to make any security controls, specific security controls which are provided by the data center? What are the risks for the data protection, privacy, laws and regulations, encryptions, and so on? There is one important methodology or concept which I want you to understand. I think those who are familiar with the project management or BMI concepts, they will find this definition familiar, which is considered, or which it is called, the agile and waterfall. Why he mentioned these definitions, although these definitions is considered somehow what we can say project management? Yes, by the end of the day, even the migration of an application from on-prem into a cloud, it's a project. It is a project. Because software, it's a software development project. There are a software development project. Then, if we are speaking about methodology for software development methodologies, we have two important methodologies, gentlemen, and I want you to understand these two concepts very carefully. You may find some questions in the exam. First one, it is called waterfall. And the second one is called agile. And I think you hear this agile a lot but not in the security or not in the cloud or anything like that, but in project management. Now we are moving the concept of the project management or the waterfall project management into agile project management. You heard this expression, of course, before. We are moving into agile. What is the difference between the agile and waterfall? The differences here, it is really in the phases and how the phases are caring about the requirements and changes in these requirements. For example, we have in the waterfall some processes, maybe process number 1, then it will be process number 2, then process number 3, then process number 4, then process number 5, and maybe 6, it will be the last process, number 6. In waterfall concept, you have to define your requirements in phase number 1. You have to define requirements in phase number 1. Let's say you have requirement 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's fine, great. Now I have a software. I want to develop a software, and I define that I have 5 requirements, and I start phase number 1. In waterfall, what is going on? When you will finish with each process, you will not be able to go back. You have to continue forward. Step number 1, it's finished. I have to move into 2, then to 3, 4, 5, till you reach to 6. What will happen if some of the requirements are changed? And by the way, this is normal, gentlemen. This is normal, because when you start a program or a project or whatever, of course, we will have objectives and we have a scope and we have outcomes and everything. But in some situation, we may need to change some of the objectives of some of the outputs. It may be some new requirements. As you know, we are calling usually the projects are iteratives. Iterative, that this means that it is developed by time. When you go forward in each phase, you will learn a lot about this phase, and this it will help you to improve the output and so on. Then when we start with 4 or 5 requirements, after some time it may be reached into 6, into 7. We said that I can add another one, 8, and for example I can remove number 2. If the 2 I can include it in 8 and 7, and so on. Then you will make these changes. Unfortunately, when you will make these changes, this in the waterfall concept or the normal BMP project management professional courses or BMI methodology, this it will consider it as a crisis, because when the phase is completed, you will not be able to go back. Then what will happen? Now I have no discussion. Management may require to make changes. Then this means that when you will make changes, now suppose that we are in phase number 3, then this means that I have to go back again. I have, as I am repeating 1 and 2, and this of course it will affect the schedule, because I have to expand the schedule, and sometimes it may require additional cost and so on. Okay, but when you start the project, it's act as a tunnel. You have to start from process 1, 2, 3, 4 till you will finalize. And of course, this concept, gentlemen, it is not the right approach, although it was common since long time. Yeah, I remember the first course for my PMP I attended in maybe 2005 or 2006. يعني 2006, if we are speaking about 2006, and I think Agile it starts since 3-4 years. يعني let's say it was in 19. يعني this means that we were working with the waterfall for about 13 years. But as we mentioned that we have some problems, then how the Agile style it will, or Agile methodology, it will solve these problems. In Agile, move forward and backward between the processes, it is very easy. It will not affect the project progress at all. And you can make some changes. Then if you find that you have to change the output or the objectives, it can be done and it will not affect the project because you still move or to work in phase number 4 while you are updating, for example, phase number 2 or phase number 1, because I have a new changes. And this the agile process, this it will be very useful for the managing the change requirements. And as I told you, change requirements, this it's normal because the project it's considered as iterative, and I'm expecting that there will be some changes, and these changes there may be for any reason. Number one, because the project is iterative and you gain some experience and you want to improve these things. Number two, there may be some different input from stakeholders, or some stakeholders which you did not interview them and you did not understand their requirements and expectations. When you start to get some feedback from them and you want to update your project, because their input is very important and they are key persons, and if you will the project it will not provide them with their needs and requirements, then they will not approve the application and the whole project it will be down and it will fail. Okay, then the agile, this is the agile where you are able to move between the processes and without affecting the project schedule and cost, and the project it will move smoothly till the finalizing phase. Okay. Any questions? Okay.
No, sir.
Okay, thank you, Prem, because I thought that you start sleeping, although it's still first hour.
No, Usama. It's not like that.
Okay, excellent. Okay. It is very important to understand the difference between the agile and the waterfall. There may be some questions in these concepts. Okay. Now we will speak about one important topic, which is the cloud specific risks. These are the risks related to the cloud. These are the risks which are related to the cloud. And when we are speaking about this cloud specific risks, this means that we will speak about the WASP top 10. I think we discussed this WASP top 10 before, and I will not go through it now, but I will just refresh your mind when we mentioned that there are 10 risks. First risk is the data breaches. Second one, misconfiguration and inadequate change control. It is very important, gentlemen, to take in your consideration the change control. Change control, it is very, very important. When you make any changes, these changes, it must be really controlled. Otherwise, you will be in a real problem if you are not follow the best practices for the change management. Because this change, it can be very simple change, but it can has huge effect on your customers, especially when we are speaking about the cloud service provider. Just imagine if you make any change which is considered minimal, but it will affect the users, and you may have thousands of users. This really a crisis, and you have to take in your consideration. Otherwise, it will be a problem. Okay. Lack of cloud security architecture and strategy. This is again one of the important points. And of course, here we are mentioned that it is for the cloud. But from my point of view, this even in on-prem, if you don't have a security architecture and strategy for your organization, then I'm really sorry to tell you that you are working ad hoc. You are working ad hoc. What do you mean by ad hoc? When we are saying ad hoc, this means that you are buying products just without real understanding of your requirements and needs. You are giving a chance for a salesman to come and cheat you, to tell you this, we are the best product in the world, we have this product in customer X and Y, and we are happy, we so and so. And usually we are seeing these scenarios every day. Then today I bought a product, let's say product X, and this product it's great. After 1 year, I bought another product Y. Again, this product it's great, but unfortunately, after I make the implementation of both of them together, I found that we are not able to communicate together. This, which we call it ad hoc. You have products, you don't have a strategy for your security. Of course, as you know, strategy. What is the definition of a strategy, gentlemen? What is the definition of a strategy?
Strategy means a long-term vision, long-term plan.
Oh, no. Strategy is not long-term. This is a vision. A long-term, this it will be a vision. What is strategy?
Isn't it a long-term plan?
Not long-term plan, but it is the way to do something. The way to do something. For example, I want to say that I want to have encrypted protocols. I want to have SIM application. I want to have centralized access control. But when I have such this strategy, it will help me to choose the product. Why? Because what is the benefit of the architecture? Benefit of architecture that it will split the whole picture or the security picture into small components, and I will be able to understand each component as standalone, and what are how the protocols or the communication with this protocol, how the security modules it will communicate together, how the security modules it will interact with the infrastructure and the application, and so on. Then when I have all these components clear, then when I will choose my application, I choose them based on this, my strategy. If I am saying I need secure protocols, then I come, you sold me a product HTTP application, then I will tell you I am really sorry, I will not be able to take it because my strategy that I have to support encrypted protocols. But when you are having HTTP, it's not protected, then I will not be able to receive it, or to buy it or implement it in my data center. The other risk, it is insufficient identity, credential, access, key management. Of course, this is related to access controls and management of the key VPN keys, account hijacking, where the hackers, he can hijack your account. This it can be by using shared account, which is not recommended at all. It is not recommended at all, except in some little situations. or if you have an access control which it is using tokens or which is using what we can say, some tickets is stored on the browser or whatever in your hard disk cache, and it's not deleted after you logged out, then this means that anyone after that he can take usage of this information and provide it into the system to act as a authorized user, and this which is considered as a hijacking attack. Also, if you are not using multi-factor authentication, this it will be a very important concern, because even if the hacker he was able to receive all this information about a specific account, he will not be able to log in, because he will be asked for the one-time password which you will receive it on the mobile. And this again, it will be a very good chance to understand that there is someone who is play around with your account, because you received one-time password on your mobile although you are not using your account. Then this means that there is someone in the background, he is trying to figure out your passwords, or he trying to log in with your account. The other risk, it is insider threat. Of course, these the people who are working in the cloud service provider. The other risk, insecure interfaces and APIs. Weak control plan. And you remember when we spoke about the management plan, we said that this management plan, it is one of the very important components of the cloud service providers, because this it will provide the control and the interface for all the cloud service provider resources, provisioning services, managed service, and all this stuff. Then it should be very secure. And if it's not secure, and if it's weak for any reason, it may be poor APIs, it may be poor access control or whatever, then it will be considered as a real attack. Sorry, not a real attack, but a real risk for your system. Meta structure and application failures, limited cloud usage visibility. All these are considered the risks from the top 10, and the abuse use of cloud service. As we mentioned before, that the hackers are very smart. They will act as a normal user, and he will try to use some tools or scripts or whatever, which he will try to cause a problem for the system. And of course, as we mentioned before, that he is reserving a logical portion of a memory or processor, but actually if there is any problem as a buffer overflow problem, for example, then this it can lead into a corruption of the physical memory of the host, and he can dump all the information hosted by this physical memory. These are the top 10, and this it was a quick recap for the information which we highlighted in the previous sessions before. Any questions?
Sir, I think we have not covered the SANS 25 risks, right?
Yeah. I know. I will not cover it right now, because I checked the exams and I found that it is not mentioned in details. I will keep it till the end.
Okay.
Because I don't think that they will go in details, but I want just to explain it for you, not for the exam, but for yourself. I want you to understand these are very important, and I want you to understand for yourself, but not the exam. The exam, only you have to know that there is a SANS top 25 and so on. This is what we want you to know. But in details, as you can see in the books, if we mention only 3 or 4 lines for each one of them, which it will not be enough to understand the full attack. But anyway, I will go through all of them because I want you to know it. But now let's concentrate on the the materials for the exam. Okay, any questions? Okay. Now I will speak about a very important thing, which I don't know if you are familiar with or not. What is threat modeling, gentlemen? What is threat modeling? Any idea?
Is it basically trying to make your applications much more secure using certain methodologies?
Not related to applications only.
So this is the principles of secure by design, where you can
No,
apply threat modeling.
no. Secure by design visits something as the secure SDLC. Secure by design means that all the security requirements are built in each phase. But threat modeling, it is not something related to secure by design. Threat modeling, gentlemen, it is a very hot topic. And now we start to hear about a lot of other topics as threat intelligence, and there are some applications which it can be utilized to analyze the threats, and work groups also for understanding the threats for each manufacturing area and so on. Threat modeling, it is used to determine and address any threat that the organization faces and how this threat it can affect the organization. Usually we are saying if anything it will affect the organization to achieve its goals and objectives, then this is a risk and we have to work with it. We have the threads, which are some of them they are high, some of them are low. It depends on each the threads and how it can it happen. Because of course you can understand in the risk assessment, risk management courses that usually you have an asset. If you have an asset, then you have a vulnerability. If you have a vulnerability, then you will have a threat. And if the threat it was able to exploit a vulnerability, then this it cause a risk and so on. The impact and the likelihood and so on. There are some concepts which you can understand in the risk management course. Here we want to understand the potential threats which we face. One of the points which we want to unify in an organization, what is the threat? In some situation, people they will consider one threat it is high, but for other people they will consider that this threat it is medium and so on. You will not be able to find a common explanation or common meaning for each thread. And this it will be a problem, because this means that if someone in division X is trying to evaluate the threads, then the results for thread evaluation may be totally different from the results came out from other division, although we are handling the same threads. But from their point of view, the threads may be high, may be low, whatever it is. Okay, then we want to find an approach or a schema or a scheme to understand how we can evaluate the threads. We have some models which it can be utilized for thread modeling. First one, it is called STRIDE. tried this the first thread classification scheme. Stride S stands for spoofing. Identity. Spoofing identity, this is a common risk for any application, which it can use the access controls. This it means that, what do you mean by spoofing identity? This it means that I will claim that I am Prem. This I will spoof Prem identity. Is it possible? Yes, it is. How? Prem, he has his username and password. Then if I want to say I am Prem, I must have the password. Okay. But as I mentioned now, when we said that session hijacking in the top 10, there may be some applications which are legacy applications. It's using some techniques for the access control. They will save cookies on the browser. When we authenticate, then it will save a cookie that it's authenticated and he has the right to access service 1, 2, 3, for example, and it will be stored on the browser. If the user he logged out and this cookie it's not deleted, then if there is any other one, he used the machine and he was able to capture this cookie, then he will be able to log into the machine, to the application, and it seems to the application that this is an authenticated user and he has the permission to do the access for the application. Okay. Then here, first factor in this Stride thread classification scheme, how it is easy to spoof the identity. How it is easy to spoof the identity. Then this means that the application, it must have proper controls, which it will prevent any user to use the identity of other user. Then this means that when you will try to make threat modeling, you will check Windows, for example. What do you think about Windows? Is it safe or not? It will use the Kerberos. Kerberos, it's a secure one, and it has a ticket, something called a ticket, and it has a strong authorization method. If any user want to access any resources, it will not depend upon the ticket. The ticket is for the authentication. Then it will get some techniques where it will be able to go to the resource and go to the Active Directory and check if you have the permission or not. Then it will be a complicated step or complex step till it will get the authorization, and this it will be secure enough. Then first factor, it is spoofing identity. Is it easy or not? Of course, if it's easy, then this means that this application or service, it is not secure. The threat here, it is high. We have a high threat. They mention threat modeling in the application because we are evaluating service. We are evaluating service. We are evaluating application. But again, I can utilize this in any other model. If I want to evaluate a network security, for example, okay, it will be the same concept. Fine. Okay, that's good. What is the other factor? The other factor, it is called tampering with data. Tampering with data, this means that the application can send data to the user, and the user, he will be able to change it or manipulate it. This can be in the form of cookies. It can be a form of get or post comments. These are the comments which are used in the browsers. If you want to get information from a database, you are saying get or post. If you want to load an application data into application, we are using post, and so on. Then in some situation, you have the application, it should validate and verify any received data from the user. For example, if you remember the injection, when we said that there is something called SQL injection or LDAP injection, that you may have an application, it is mentioned, enter your username and password. Then I came in the username and I write this command, 1 = 1. This is right or correct concept, 1 = 1. But this is not what is the system expected. The system, it's expected that you will type username Usama, for example. It is not 1 = 1. Then there will be a confusion. How it will deal with it, it depends upon the application itself. But usually in some situation, it may dump some information from its database into the user. This, which we call it before, SQL injection. Then what is the solution here? The solution here is very important. And as you can see, we are speaking about technology or solution which you have to take it in your consideration while you are developing your application. Don't wait till the end. If we are saying spoofing identity, then when I start to make my requirements from first phase of the SDLC, I have to define that. I have to define, I don't want to have a cookies. I don't want to have information to be stored on the hard disk of the client. This information must be deleted when we are logged out, or even to leave it with a timer. It will be deleted after some time. Whatever it is, we require. Tampering with data, it will be the same. If you are able to make SQL injection or whatever, then you will be in trouble. Then what is the solution? The solution that I want the application to be able to validate the input. If it will find that the input is 1 = 1, it will say, wait, this is not the expected data. I am expected that I will have a text or maybe a number as well, text or number. Then this, it will be what I am expecting. Then this, it's wrong. This, it's wrong. This, it's a comment. I will not accept it. Then it have to tell you, I am really sorry, you have to type a valid username. You have to type a valid username. These are the points which you have to consider when you are developing your application. Okay. The third concept is the repudiation. Repudiation, it's a very important concept in security. Repudiation, it is very important concept in security. What is repudiation? Repudiation, gentlemen, that any application must keep accurate logs for any user transactions. Then the users, we will not be able to make any repudiation for their activities. Suppose that I am withdraw $1,000 from my account bank. Then after that, I called the bank and I told him, I cannot understand, gentlemen. I had in my accounts $1,000, but now I can see that I have zero balance. What does it mean? He will say, yes, because in the morning you logged into the system and you withdraw $1,000. No, I did not do this. This is not my activity. Then this means that it may be a hacker. He will say, no, I am really sorry. This it's not. Because, for example, we have one-time password. And of course, no one he will be able to log in without having the one-time password to be entered for authentication, and you are receiving this on your mobile, then this means that it is you. Or they can utilize for the repudiation public and private keys. Public and private keys. Of course, the private key, it will be kept only with the user. Then if there is any digital signature, something like that, or usually digital signature, it will be signed by the private key, then this means that it is really the user, because this private key, it's only with you. If the private key is compromised, you have to mention this for the bank and make changes for the private and public key. It's your problem. It's not our problem. If you did not highlight that the keys are compromised, it's not my problem. It's your problem. You have to work with the support services in the bank to reset your public and private keys. Then this, which we call it the repudiation. This, which we call it the repudiation. The other factor, it is the information disclosure. The information disclosure, how the information can be leaked from the application. You have to make sure that the application is strong and it will be able to protect the data and its storage. Because if there is any, you remember, gentlemen, when we were working in the data security and we mentioned that we have 3 different types of data. Do you remember what are they?
Structured, unstructured, semi-structured.
No. Data. I mean data.
Data at rest, data in use, and data in motion.
Yes. Data in use is the most dangerous phase. Why? Because the data is handled by a user or a system, and we mentioned that we will not be able to apply encryption or whatever. We can use IRM, DRM, something like that. It's okay. But again, I will not be able to utilize any other methods as encryption and so on. Then this means that if the application is not able to protect the data, this it will be a problem. If the application, it will cache some pages or credentials or create cookies and save it on the browser or the local hard disk, this it will be a problem again. Because this means that this data, it can be saved on the hard disk. For example, I am trying to access some application and I got some sensitive data, and after I logged off, I found that the data is cached on the hard disk, or there may be some cookies cached on the hard disk. This it will be a real problem. Then I have to make sure that all these settings must be handled, and I have to make sure that whatever any data, it will go outside the system to the user, and when it will back again, it should be, as we mentioned, to be checked and clarified that it's not tampered with, or it may be some comments or whatever, which it can create a risk for the machine. Okay. D, it stands for denial of service. Denial of service, that any application, it can be a target for the denial of service. Then we want to understand, or to make the developers to understand or to develop a process how we can minimize the operations which are performed for non-authenticated users. What do you mean? It's not clear. Okay. I will try to explain it in a simple form. But on the network layer, not on the application layer. Do you remember when we said that if you have one server here and you have a client and you are using TCP/IP, it will have a three-way handshake. Three-way handshake. It will send SYN, then the server, it will send back SYN and ACK, acknowledge, then this, it will send acknowledge. What is this? This SYN, where they will, the machine, the client, it will say that I will use a specific number, then the server, it will know the numbers which it will be used by the client. Then the ACK, it will be acknowledgement of the server that it will understand the SYN number of the synchronized number of the client, and it will send its SYN number, this SYN number which it will be utilized by the server, and ACK, this it will acknowledged of the SYN number. Then this acknowledged, it will be for this SYN, and this acknowledged will be this SYN. Okay, that's great. After we make 1, 2, this number 1, this number 2, this number 3, when these 3 steps are completed, there will be a communication channel between the client and the server, and they can able to send and receive data. Thank you very much. This is authenticated connection. And we mentioned that the denial of service, what it will be with denial of service. Denial of service, it will be something like that, that I will send here 1 SYN. The client, it mentioned that I will use this number to send all the data coming from my side with this number. Then the server, it will send SYN ACK. It will say, okay, I acknowledge this SYN and my number is so and so. Now the server, it is waiting for number 3. It is waiting for number 3. But because this is ACK, number 3, it will not come. Then what will happen? As we mentioned that it will this connection, it's non-authenticated, or in this case we can say it non-completed connection. It will open a back, it will consume a part of the processor and the memory of the machine. Then if we have one connection, it will consume a specific portion. If I have 10, it will consume 10x of this portion. If I have 100 portion, and so on, until it will consume all the resources. And this, which we call it the non-completed or non-authenticated connection. And this is the same concept. Then how the application, it will be able to deal with this, it can be handled by the application. I will wait for some time, let's say for 1 minute. If I did not receive any connection back, then I will drop whatever any connections I have, and so on. Although such these cases, we are saying in some situation applications, we are not caring about these points, and we have to do this exercise on a network level, as we will see later in this module, that we have compensating controls. But again, this, it should be done on the application level. It should be done on the application level. Okay, the last factor, E, it is elevation of privileges. What is elevation of privilege? Usually, gentlemen, if you want to have a control on an application or system, you will be very stupid if you are trying to compromise the administrator account. You will be very stupid. Why? Because, of course, administrator account, it has a lot of security controls and protection. And in some situation, they will, the security administrators, they will have something called PAM. Did you hear this concept before, or this expression before? What is PAM?
It's I have it in a different, it's PO. like for Microsoft Privilege Access Workstation, that
Yes.
you will have a dedicated workstation only to access the management. It has no internet access, nothing, or has a specific access to specific URLs.
Here, VPAM, it is not the same as the concept which you are saying, because this, what you are saying, it is previously, which I mentioned to you before, it's called OOP. Do you remember OOP? Anyone remember what is OOP? I mentioned this before.
Out of bandwidth, I think.
That's right, out of band. And this out of band, it's a totally separate physical network from the network of the applications. Data, it's running on network, while the OOP, it will be only for management, data management. The PAM, it is some sort of maybe software, maybe hardware, whatever. But what is the function of the PAM? It is privileged access management. Whatever any privileged access management, if you have administrators and or this stuff, it will be integrated with this machine. Then it will ask for one-time password. It will ask for one-time password when to be authenticated. Okay, then if I'm a hacker, I can compromise account for Usama, for example, a normal user. When a normal user, I will try to compromise this account for a normal user, which is Usama. Usama is a normal user and it does not have any permissions. But I can use some techniques, you know, the privilege in the operating system or the processor. In the operating system, we have rings. I think this you will be more familiar with these examples in CISSP course. This is called ring number 0. This is called number 1. This is called number 2 and number 3. This is called the core, and here the applications. And of course, security here decreased when we move from 0 to 3. Here you will find the operating systems, here the drivers of the operating systems, and so on. Then the user, the hacker, he will try to find any of the processes in this area, in ring 1 or in ring 0 or ring 1. Then if he able to capture these credentials, then he will be able to escalate his privilege. His privilege, it's a normal user, and normal user, this, it will be usually run the applications and so on, which it will be in layer number 3. But if he was able to reach to this area, or he have to compromise the processor or the operating system security, and he has a program and he was able to compromise the operating system ring and make them think that this application which he created, it's a DLL or maybe operating system file or whatever, then it will be able to run in which the ring 0 or ring 1. Then he will be able to escalate his privilege. Then this means that if the application, it was not properly developed, and it will be able to verify the administrative privilege when any function are accessed, then it will be a problem, because usually in the background, gentlemen, you may not know that if you are having, let's say you have one screen like that, and you have here multiple options. When you came and choose option 1, option 2, option 3, every time you are choosing one of these permission options, in the background, you are authorized for it. You are authorized in the background. It want to make sure, are you authorized or not? You will say, no, it's not doing any authorized. It will not ask me for anything. Yes, it will not ask you, because your information, it is cached. Then it will take the username and password, which is already authenticated. It will communicate with the LDAP. It will be, yes, it's authenticated or not, and so on. This is in the background. Then if you are doing anything, or you are having any permission here, which is require administrative privilege, and you are not verifying or make authorization check every time you are using the administrative privilege, then this means that your account, it can be compromised by the hacker, and he can upgrade or he can privilege his user account into administrative account. And this, it is what we call it the elevation of privilege. Elevation of privilege. And by the way, gentlemen, elevation by privilege, there are some programs which it can do this exercise. Of course, if you want to have more information how we can do these things, this you will find it in penetration testing methodologies. One of the most popular courses, of course, the EC Council, which is called CEH, Certified Ethical Hacking. Certified Ethical Hacking. This is one of the important courses which highlight this usage and how you can escalate privilege, reconnaissance, and all this stuff. Okay. Any questions?
Sir, can you explain the term reconnaissance?
Reconnaissance, this it's used if you want to collect data about some targets. To collect data about some targets. This is considered phase number 1 in any penetration testing.
Okay.
It's a term, it's a complicated term. It has a lot of things. I have to tell you there is something called passive and active. In the passive, I have to check information about the website or the organization which I want to hack, emails, phones, ports, what are the active servers, what are the running applications, what are the running services. Then I have to make a blueprint for this. It's really a complicated one, and this it's not expression which it can be explained in one word, because this if the reconnaissance phase, it's taking almost half day in the ACE course. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. I think we deserve our break. Okay. We were discussing the threat modeling, and before the break, we explained the stride method. And now we will study another method which is called grid. Grid, gentlemen, it is little bit different from the stride. Stride depends upon explanation of the subjective feedback and information about the thread. But in the grid level, is defined based on mathematical approach. What is this mathematical approach? The risk in the grid model, it is D plus R plus E plus A plus D over 5. What is this? I am feeling that you are speaking Chinese language. No, it's not Chinese, it's English. And you will see that it's English within few minutes. D stands for damage potential. Damage potential. What is damage potential? It's a measure of damage to a system or a data. It's a damage measure of a damage to a system or a data. If there is this thread, if we had this thread in our organization, what will happen? What will happen? What will be the effect of this damage over the data or the application? We have a range from 0 to 10. 0 means that no damage. 0 means that no damage. 10 means that total loss of data or application. Then 0, it is the minimum value. 10, it is the maximum value. Okay? R stands for reproducibility. What is reproducibility? It is a measure of how it is easy to reproduce and exploit, or to create, to utilize a weakness in a system. How it is easy to reproduce and exploit or utilize or exploit a risk or vulnerability in a system. Again, from 0 to 10. 0 means that it is impossible to exploit, to repeat this exploit again. Yani, this is impossible to repeat this attack again. 10 means that it is very easy to exploit the attack again. It is very easy to exploit the attack again. E stands for exploitability. What is exploitability? Again, it's a measure of the skill level, competence of the hacker, or the resources required. It may be tools, libraries, whatever, to successfully exploit a threat. It will be a measure of the skills, competence, tools, resources required to exploit the threat or to utilize a threat. From 0 to 10, 0, it is very difficult. It requires high competence, high knowledge, very sophisticated tools. 10 means that it is very easy to exploit the threat. 0 means it's very easy to exploit the threat. A stands for affected users. How many users will be affected by the exploit? How many users will be affected with exploit? From 0 to 10. 0, no one will be affected. No one will be affected. 10, all the users will be affected. And of course, you have the numbers in between. Then you can choose the number, the real number, which it can represent the real attack. Okay. D, where we can type the D. I want to keep it in the same screen. The last D, it is discovery. Discoverable, this means that it's again a measure how it is easy to discover a thread. How it is easy to discover a thread. Again, we have from 0 to 10. 0, it means that it is very difficult. 10, it means that very simple to discover the thread. This from my point of view, it is more practical than we stride, because as we explained in the stride, it is not something tangible with the numbers and so on, but it depends upon the subjective explanation. Yeah, this is exploit, no, this is spoofing, is it possible to be spoofed or not, or and so on. Okay, one question: suppose that you make a thread analyzing using grid, and the risk level for first one it was 5, and the second one it was 2. Which one is more danger, risk number 1 or risk number 0?
Risk number 1 or risk number 0?
Risk number 1, sorry, I mean risk number 1 or risk number 2?
Risk number 1 is more danger because it has got a score of 5, right?
You are right. This is the right answer. Then this means that in the grid, if you have high score, then this means that it is more dangerous. And this is the reason why we said all of them from 0 to 10. This one means minimum effect. This one high effect. Okay?
So is it possible to have the dead score as 0 always? No, right? Like I'm just trying to correlate the concept of risk management. Risk cannot be completely nullified, it can be only minimized. So the similar way, can I say that dread can never be 0, but it can be just minimum?
There is one point here. What you are saying that I will not be able to eliminate a risk. I'm not speaking about elimination here at all. I am not speaking about any controls. I did not apply anything yet as security controls. I'm speaking about the nature of the threat itself. It may be high, it may be low. It may be 0. Yani, for example, if we are saying it is not affecting any users, okay, it's not affecting any users, but it may affect systems. Or it may, we have, as we mentioned here, we have 5 factors. Okay, the damage, it is minimal, but it is very easy to be discovered. Then it can happen, you can find that some of the factors, it is not fatal, but others are. This is the reason why we consider that the overall, it will be this equation. All the factors here, you have to consider. You may find some of them 0. You may find some others 2, 4, 6, 8, till to reach 10. But when you question that, I must not find 0 at all, because there is nothing called I will eliminate. This it's okay, because you are speaking about risk management, about security controls, about residual risk. But I'm not speaking about residual risk here, or I did not apply any control. This is my first study. I found a thread, and it makes this effect. It can be 0. Yes, it can be 0. In some situations, the potential damage or the exploit, or يعني, it may be 0. It's not affecting the users at all. It will not affect users at all. But it will affect the data crossing a network, because it's moved in clear text, for example. Then this means that producibility, discoverable, this it will be high. Although in the affected user, it is 0, but in discoverable, it may be 10. Okay? We have another model for the threat management. It's called ATASM. Although they not
So,
Yeah.
sir, in the exam, what type of questions might come? Actually, it will be just definitions with respect to these models.
Of course, definition.
Mhm.
This one of them. It will ask you very direct questions in these abbreviations. What it stands for?
Okay.
You may have some questions about the concepts.
Okay.
The third model, it is the ATASM. This stands for what? Architecture, threads, attack service, mitigation, attack service is this one. This is threat modeling, and it's composed of all these factors. By the way, gentlemen, here in the ATSM and PASTA, just don't spend long time for it, because they only define some very basic information. They did not give detailed information about it. Then in ATSM, we have the architecture, which is related to systems architecture. System architecture related to physical and logical components, which is related to physical and system components. Then you have threads, and these combined the attacks, which it can compromise any host or any asset. Attack service. The attack service, this is considered as input and output of any system. Input or output of any system. Last is mitigations. What are the countermeasures which can be applied to mitigate the attack? As you can see, the information which is mentioned here, it's very poor. And by the way, these two methods are added recently. These two threads are added recently, and I don't, frankly speaking, know why. If they want to give very basic information, but you know the concept that okay, this is it is a method which is available. If you want more detailed information, you can check, you can Google it and get whatever any required information you need. The other method, it's called PASTA. PASTA stands for process, for attack, process for attack, simulation, and thread analysis. This is the name process for attack, simulation, and threat analysis. It will make a threat analysis and it will simulate the attack. And this, we have in PASTA 7 steps. We have 7 steps. It's a procedure. We have 7 steps. What are these 7 steps? Number 1, you have to define what is the objectives. If you want to make a threat analysis, you have to define what is the objective. What is the objective of this test? I want to test an application. I want to test a network. I want to test whatever. Whatever the objective. What are your objective of this threat analysis? Then you have to define the technical scope. What is the scope? This scope, it may be application, it may be the application and other application which are integrated with. It may be also with outsourcing resources and so on. Then what will be the scope? Then number 1, objective. Number 2, scope. Then you have to decompose the application, because the application, as we mentioned, when it is configured or it is developed, it may be consists of multiple modules. When here we will start to compose the application, then we can start to study each part as independent on the other to understand it very well. Analyze step number 4, analyze the threads. What are the threads which it can affect these components? What are the vulnerability analysis? What are the vulnerabilities which each component have? Attack analysis, make the analysis for this attack. What is the impact? What is the likelihood? And finally, you have to make risk and impact analysis. Risk and impact analysis. Of course, gentlemen, this it is covering the risk management or risk assessment phases. يعني, because as the threat analysis, when they are making threat analysis, this means that it is considered as a risk assessment, some sort of risk assessment, because this threat analysis, it will be done in the first phase. In the first phase of the which is called risk identification. First phase, it's called the risk identification, and usually this it will be the first phase for the risk analysis. Then this is the concept which is utilized by the PASTA. One of the most good things which I want you to memorize it very well. What is the competitive edge of PASTA? The competitive edge of PASTA that it combines business objectives, technical requirements, and compliance requirements for threat management. This is very important because if we will go back for example, ATASM, where is here the business objectives? Can you see where we can inject the business objectives here in this methodology for analyzing or threat modeling? Where I can inject the business requirements here? I don't have. All the components are technical. But when we will come to the PASTA, it will be different little bit. Objectives, we mentioned in first phase objectives, then scope, then you have to analyze threads and the vulnerabilities. This, of course, it will be technical. Decompose the application. It will be business and technical. Then this risk impact analysis. It will be it will be business and technical. Then the PASTA competitive edge of PASTA that it can combine the business objectives, the technical requirements, and the compliance for the threat management process. Okay. Any questions?
I think the reason actually in PASTA why business objectives are there, because it starts itself with process, right? So business will only write the policy, and then they will actually make the guidelines, and then they will make the procedures and the process, right?
No. PASTA, we mentioned that we have 7 steps. I don't have any right policies or whatever. But why business objectives, it will be included? Because you have first step that you have to define objectives.
Correct.
You have to define technical scope or business scope. Then this means that business people here, we can define what do we require. We require objective that we want to test something. We want to know what are the business which it will affect this manufacturing processes or that manufacturing. So then they will give you some input which is related to the business objectives. Okay. Now we will speak about secure coding. Secure coding, again, it is one of the most important concepts for the developers. And of course, it is very important. All the attacks or the bugs of the applications, it's coming from this step because developers are not familiar with security, and we are not applying the security requirements. We are not applying secure coding model and so on. For secure modding, we have two popular frameworks. We have two popular frameworks. First one is called ASVS. And the second one, it is called Safe Code. It is not required that to know this in details. This is a complicated issue. But you have to understand the concept. You have to understand the concept. The AVS, which stands for application security verification standard. It is developed by OWASP. It is developed by OWASP. Okay? And this is a standard approach for testing web application security controls. For testing web application security controls. Also, it provides the developers with some requirements for security coding best practices. It defined requirements for the developers for security coding best practices. For example, if you want to use a library from the internet, then this means that you have to check this library, you have to check its code, make sure that it is not having any malicious codes, which it will collect the data in the background and send it to a hacker or whatever, any IP address or whatever, something like that. Okay, then this is the concept of the OWASP, ASVS, that it will provide approach for testing web application security controls, and it will define the requirements for the secure developer for best practices of security coding. For the Safe Code, this it's an organization. It's non-profit organization. Safe Code, this it's non-profit organization. Non-profit organization, and we are focus on the collaboration between business and technical to develop secure software programs. This is their mindset. We want to integrate business and technical people. And this, by the way, the concept now for the, as we are saying, DevOps, that developers, we will work with the operations, and we mentioned agility, that the business, they can make some changes across the project development phases and so on. Then now in the Safe Code, they are mentioning that business leaders and technical experts, they will work together to develop secure software programs. It depends upon the, of course, the requirements of the business needs and organization needs. Okay. Again, you have to know these two very well. Again, you can have some questions. And what are the questions you will have? It may be in the abbreviations, what ASVS stands for. Although it is a very simple question, but it can happen. What is its objective? That is ASVS, it will test web application, it define requirements for secure coding. It is developed by OWASP. Safe Code, it's non-profit organization. It is collaboration between business and the technical to promote or to develop secure software. These are the points which is important to understand. Now, gentlemen, we will speak about another concept which is very important for software developers. What is it? It is the software configuration management and versioning. Of course, it is very important, and it's what we can say, very logic that you can have first version, then second version of your code, then third, fourth, and fifth, and so on. And this is part of the life. Today we are version 1, then version 2, then 2.1, then 3, and so on. We need some applications which it will be able to manage the configuration and the versioning. Configuration management and versioning. This is very important. Software configuration and version. There are some free tools in the market. There are some free tools in the market. One of these tools is Git. G-I-T, Git. And this is for free. You can get it for free because it's open source platform. It is open source platform. What is it's doing? This for code development through the SDLC process. For example, we have a group of developers who are working together. Each one, he has a part to be coded. Then this application, it will help the developers for code collaboration or branching or versioning. Then this means that during the development process, this Git application, it can be utilized for these features between the group of the developers. Another, this application, it's called Git, and as we mentioned, it is open source. Another two tools, which is called Puppet and Chef. What are these tools? These tools are system configurations and versioning. System configuration and versioning. What do you mean by system configuration and versioning? They are used to push any new configuration or to change configuration. And what is the most important feature in these settings? That it makes sure that these changes are not pushed only on some individual servers, but this it will be pushed for all the servers. For example, I have a patch. I have an application and I have a patch. I want to push this patch into all the servers. Then what it will do, this patch, for example, it is version 1.2.4.6.5 and XYZ. Then it will keep a version. It will maintain the version and it will make change configuration. Then it will push all this new application into a pool of servers where all the servers in this pool, it will receive the change. You don't have to go to each server and make sure that it is loaded. No, what you have to do is that you have to define that these changes must go to a specific pool. Then this means that all the changes, it will go directly to these members of this pool. Okay? Any questions?
No.
Okay. just I want to make sure that the others are not sleeping. يعني Bram, okay, I know that he still woke up. What about Muhammad and Sobha?
Sir, we are not sleeping, we are hearing, but these things already we know, so just a revision.
Yeah, we are here.
Right. Good. Now we will have another topic, which is the cloud software assurance and validation. Assurance and validation. The assurance and validation of software or cloud software, we have multiple factors. What are these multiple factors? Number one, cloud-based functional testing. This is number one. Number two, cloud secure development life cycle. Look, gentlemen, usually when you will hear functional testing, this means that it will be done on a level of system or application functions. Test against a particular function of an application or a system. Usually when we are doing DR, and after we make the DR, we are saying that we have to make functional testing. What do you mean by functional testing? Functional testing, this means that we want to make sure that, for example, the database is up and running, the front-end server is up and running, front-end servers is able to see the back-end servers, back-end server it's able to see the database server, it can communicate with the back-end server, and it can send the data into front-end server to the user, and so on. This, which we call it as a functional testing. When the functional testing, this it will be the testing for the application. When I am saying that the software or cloud-based functional testing, I want to make sure that the application it is able to make the functions which is designed for. It is able to print reports, it's able to capture data, it's able to send the data or send the emails, whatever the functions you have. You have some specific functions which are defined in the requirement phase, and you have to make sure that all these functions are achieved by the application. This which we call it as functional test. In functional test, we have two different types of tests. We have full testing or regression testing. Full testing, this means that you are test all the features. Regression testing, you are test some specific features. Okay, these are the functional testing which you have it. As a part of the functional testing, it is the legal and regulatory requirements. For example, the GDPR mentioned that secure data, privacy data must be secure, must be encrypted. NCA, for example, it's mentioned that the data on the storage must be encrypted. And so on. Then whatever all the legal and regulatory requirements, it should be applied. For example, PCI DSS mentioned that there must be a firewall or so on. Okay. Then whatever any laws, legal and regulatory requirements, it be checked or it should be tested and make sure that it's already achieved in this phase, in the functional testing. In the cloud secure development life cycle, I will not speak too much about it, but just I want to highlight very important thing, gentlemen. Now we have the normal SDLC, which is secure development life cycle, and we have secure SDLC. I want to ask you, what is the difference between these two?
Building security in all the stages of the SDLC cycle.
طيب, what about the SDLC?
SDLC is a normal way of actually developing a software life cycle. Here, what you're doing is that in a normal SDLC, you add the security later after the product has been developed. So, which is basically you're trying to bolt in security into the product application. Here, you're trying to merge the security in all the life cycles right from the beginning and throughout the life cycle.
Excellent. Excellent. This outstanding answer. Thank you. Okay. We will come for another topic which is very important for the exam. Very important for the exam. And if you are not working in the application security, it may not be important for you in life. But for the exam, it's very important. You have to understand very well the differences between them. What are they? What is this topic? Security testing. What are the security testing methods? What are the security testing methods? This is very important, gentlemen. It is very important. First methods, it's called dynamic application security testing. DAST. Okay. This is a black box testing. What is black box testing, gentlemen? What is black box testing? Any answer? And I need someone rather than Prem, please.
Yes, Mahmoud here.
Okay, Mahmoud.
Black box testing is about like when you bring in a vendor who doesn't know anything about your environment, and you ask him to do testing blindly on the application or your system.
Yes, you are right. Then black box, I don't know anything about anything. Mahmoud now, he make a contract with me. Please come and check this application. What is it? I don't know. It's your job to do it. And here it will come the function of reconnaissance, because I have to understand and understand this application, how it's working, and so all this information. I have to collect a lot of information first. Okay? Then this black box testing. It will run against live systems. This means that I will run this against live system. Usually, gentlemen, the black box testing, it will be from outside the organization. It will be outside the organization. Okay? This, it will be outside the organization. And what is the objective here? What is the objective? The objective here, I want to test and evaluate my application. Test and evaluation of application or system. I know my handwriting, it is not the best one. I know that when I am trying to delete the words which I know that you will not be able to read it, but I hope that you will accept my apologize for this. Test specific test. We want to test and evaluate an application or system. Okay, this number one. Number two, it's called penetration testing. What is penetration testing? What is refactions? Again, it is a black box. Fine, that's fine. It's a black box. What else? Also, it is run against live systems. And this is one of the main problems here, gentlemen, with a lot of people. Usually, I am hearing this question: what is the difference between dynamic application security test and penetration testing? Both of them for black box and both of them against live systems. Then what is the difference? The difference, it is in the purpose. Here, the purpose discover vulnerabilities and weakness. But here, we want to test a specific application. Then, what is my purpose? If in the penetration testing, which it is the same exercise which a hacker he will do, what he want to do? He want to compromise your system. I will compromise the system. How can I compromise the system? When I discover the vulnerabilities and weakness, then I will be able to exploit the vulnerability by any threat, and this means that I will be able to access the system. But in the dynamic application security testing, it is a testing by our team. You know, gentlemen, did you hear before about the blue team and red team?
Yes.
What is the difference?
Blue team is basically your defensive security team, which you will run like testing and try to penetrate the system internal. No, sorry. Blue team is your defensive, where you have like SOC, all of the people who has your SOC analyst and try to defend your or build your defensive methodology. When the red team is the one who try to attack your system and penetrate it.
The red team, is it your team or outsiders?
No, the red team is outsiders.
We are doing the test from outside, but still we are under your umbrella.
Yes.
Right? Then this is the main difference between the penetration testing and the DAST. This you can consider it the red this can consider it as blue. You got the difference now? This is the main point which it will cause confusion, and usually it will create a lot of confusion in the exam, gentlemen. In the exam, you will hate your life because you will feel that the two answers are exactly the same. But there is one trick, that this test, we want to test the system, not to discover vulnerabilities or attack the system. If it's discover vulnerabilities and weakness and attack the system, then it's penetration testing. If you want to test it, then it will be dynamic application security test. Usually we are saying that the DSAT and the SAST, we are the same. Here, dynamic application security testing. Here, static application security testing. Both of them are working together. Sorry, gentlemen. I mentioned one wrong information here. I am really sorry for it. This, forget about this. the blue team, it is the SAST. What is SAST? SAST, it is a white box. What is white box? Of course, it is the opposite of the black box. Black box, I don't have information. White box, I know everything. Well, of course, if I know everything, this means that I am working in the company. I am working in the company. And this, it will be include against source code. When if it's source code, it's not a live system. It's a source code or whatever any systems involve it. Okay? And this, it will help in what? To understand, catch any programming bug, any vulnerability, and or any errors, whatever. And this is the same concept which Mahmoud he mentioned now. These are the team who are working inside my company, who are the security engineers, and we are working to protect our infrastructures. Then we have full information about the systems. Here, gentlemen, we usually look here, SAST. Usually we are working very close with the DAST. And this is the concept why we have another concept now rather than the white and the red and the blue. Do you know what is it? I mentioned
Sorry,
now
what
as
is the
red
question?
team, which Mahmoud, he explained us the difference between red team and blue team. But this, we have another team. What is it? Do you know what is it?
I think the purple team.
Purple team.
Sorry?
Purple team.
Purple.
One by one.
Purple. PURPLE. Purple
Purple?
team.
Okay. It's not purple. Maybe frankly speaking, just I want to explain you the concept, but I'm not sure about the. According to my information, it's called white team. What is a white team? It's mix and match between the blue team and the red team. A team which have the two of them are working together.
Okay, sir, one question. I'm getting a little confused. So the red team is within the organization, or it is a team comprising of specialists from outside?
Usually it will be from the organization.
Okay.
It will be from the organization.
Okay.
Okay. Well, if we will go back to the SAST and DAST, we are working together to create the white team. Test number 4, vulnerability scanning. I think all of you know this one. And again, it is white box. And we want to discover any vulnerability.
Sir, I have a question here. Now, the thing is that these are all applications which are going to be in the cloud. Isn't it actually better that to have the pen testing team, that is the penetration testing, to be done from outsiders? Because the pen testers within the team, if they are trying to find the vulnerabilities and weaknesses, there might be an element of biasness. But in case if he is an external person, he will simply try to hack the system and try to say that these are the places where it is vulnerable.
You have to understand that when you are studying the CCSP, it does not deal with you from point of view of customer only. You may a cloud service provider, and you want to make these tests yourself to ensure that the application is up and running. But if you want to have a proof for your customer, okay, you are right. I have to depend upon a third party, which is BIOS, and it will be trusted by the customers. Then it depends upon the objectives of the testing. What is your objective? My objective now, I developed an application for my customers. I want to test it. I don't want to go to get someone who will cost me a lot to discover the vulnerabilities. I want to make the test myself to make sure that I covered all the vulnerabilities. After I did my exercise, and I think now my application, it's rigid enough, that I can request external party or third party to make the audit and the penetration test and issue me a certificate that my application is secure, and it provide me security based on best practices, and this it will be as a certificate for my customers to feel confident about the service. Okay. It is very important to understand the difference between DAST and SAST. This we can say that we are in the same organization. This, it can be from outside, it may be a third party or whatever. And of course, the vulnerability scanner, this it will be from inside the organization. Okay, we have another test called software composition analysis.
Mr.
Again-
Usama, I have a question, please.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
For the vulnerability scanning, is it a specific team, or we can have like a tool who can do this for us, Qualys or any other tool that can do the vulnerability scanning for us?
Of course, it must be a tool. There must be a tool. There is no way that you will be able to make a vulnerability scanning without a tool. No way. It must be a tool. But your question now, is it a dedicated team or non-dedicated team? Am I right?
Yes, yes, full vulnerability scanning, because we have tools for that. What are they going to do? They will just, a team will use or operate the tool to just gather or see if there is any vulnerability, or a team will be dedicated to discover new vulnerability, and it will zero-day attack, for example, or try to prevent it.
If it's zero-day attack, they will not be able to discover it.
No,
Except
يعني I mean,
SOC.
Yeah.
This will be total different. This it will be a SOC or whatever. Like when we are speaking about the vulnerability assessment, usually it will be integrated with the patch management.
okay.
When I find any vulnerability, I have to patch it.
So it's a known. It's a known vulnerability, right?
It is a known vulnerability, or your application may use some techniques which are not signatures. يعني they are using an anomaly, for example. If they found that
Behavior based مثلا.
sorry.
Behavior based يعني مثلا.
ايوه بالظبط. Behavior based. They found that there are some traffic which it should not appear on this server. I know that this server, it is email server. Then why I can find TFTP or FTP in the background, and it's trying to speak with our some servers, other servers from outside, IP address from public IP address. Then this, of course, it is an attack. Then immediately it will push it to you.
But this
is
what you just
considered
mentioned,
as incident.
okay, but this is exactly, it's a SOC team responsibility, right? Who see if there is
If it's
which type of,
considered as an instant, yes, it will be the SOC team. Yes, yes. In this case, yes, it will be a SOC team, because as we clarified, vulnerability scanning, there is no need to escalate it into event and incident. Why? Because this is a normal. This is operational. Yes, I can have some fixes which is critical, very critical, but again, it is a part of the operation. But the SOC, when the SOC, it will come in the picture. You have an event, and you found that this event, it will affect the security, CIA of asset. Then immediately, the incident response team, IRT, should be involved. But when we're saying vulnerability, I have a vulnerability in operating system and Microsoft identified as critical. This does not mean that it should go to the SOC. No, it will be as operation part and it will run as an operation part.
Okay, so let's say here comes antivirus, for example, for vulnerability management.
Yes, you are right. صح. Virus, and it found a virus or worm or whatever.
So it will be in vulnerability scanning.
Yeah, it will go through the vulnerability scan and it found that we have a virus or whatever. Okay. Is it affecting CIA? Yes, it affects because it attack a server, it attack so and so, it will affect it. When the SOC, it will come in the picture. But if it, no, it is not. It is not. We can control it. Then, okay, if it can control it, then do the exercise. It is not escalated as to instant, then we are still considered as an operation case.
Okay.
Okay?
I get it.
طيب. We have another test which called software composition analysis. This is very important, gentlemen. Although the other type of testing which I will mention now, they mentioned late or in the last period for the tests. By the way, before it was vulnerability scanning, it was last test in the test methods, but these are new tests. But this one is very important. And this, what it will do, it's automated process, which it can search for the code or source code to identify any open source software. To tell me, what is the problem, gentlemen? If it's open source software, what is the problem? I am allowed to use it. What is it? Yes, you are allowed, but you have 2 points you have to take care about it. Number one, this source code or open source software, did you make a check for it and you make sure that all the lines are legal and it does not contain any malware or any processes which collect the data or do something in the background of your machine? This is very important. Okay. Another thing which is called, it's license compliance. Then usually you will ask license compliance. Open source software, it has a license compliance. Yes, in some situation, yes, it has. Although it is free, but you have some restrictions and license requirements to use it free. For example, you remember the countries which are classified as terrorist countries? It was Sudan, Iraq,
Yes.
Iran, or Korea. Yani all these countries. Do you think that we are allowed to use these applications, open source applications? We are not. Although it's for free. Yes, it's for free, I know. But still, we have some compliance, license compliance, to be used, to use it freely, to use it for free. Then this is the reason why the software composition analysis is very important. Software composition analysis, it will be an automated process which it will search for any code, which for open search any code for open source software and databases, and this it will be important for security and for license compliance. Okay.
So, sir, one question. So, one
Sure.
question on the software composition analysis. So, as you said that it will go and check the, I mean to say the open source, any source software being used. Are all open source software highly secured, or they are less secured?
No, what is the question? All what?
Are all open source software or application highly secured, or they are not that secured?
I will not be able to say highly secure. Because usually the people who are doing the open source code, we are not, as we mentioned, developers, we are not caring about security. I am not searching for high secure and low secure. I am searching for some of these applications or open source code, gentlemen. It has malicious lines which it may collect the data, or it may in some situation you may have some of this application which it will plan it ransom attack on your machine, for example.
Okay.
Some lines which it will make encryption for your data. And from your point of view, I did nothing. There is a library, I download it, I use it, but you did not check it. This, it can have a lot of scenarios. It can collect the data in the background, it can insert a worm in your network, it can insert Trojan horse, it can insert ransom attack, whatever it is. Okay? Then these are the things which you have to make sure about them. Okay.
So, sir, I have one more question. Sorry, we use a lot of this. I mean, to say open source apps, like especially a PDF document to be converted into Word. So, because sometimes you do not have a registration with Adobe, and wherein you can convert the document actually into this one. So, what we do is that we sometimes go to a free tool, which is available in the internet, and then we convert the document. Now, sometimes when, as you're telling this one, it is just coming to my mind. I have myself converted certain confidential documents actually from PDF to Word using that tool. And then because it allows you, because you don't have to register, you don't have to use credit card or other things. But then the point is, there is actually a kind of a security breach also unknowingly, because the tool might have collected the contents of the PDF while converting it into a Word document. I mean to say, like, unknowingly, I mean to say, it is like I'm exposing confidential data of the organization through that tool. Am I right?
Yes, you are right. And I think the main weakness here is the organization itself. Because the organization, we did not provide any security awareness training for you. Besides, we are not protecting their infrastructure in high or in enterprise organizations. We are not allowed any application to be installed on your machine. They will make something called as a whitelisting. They will allow some applications only to run on the machine. Then if there is any program as the one which you are saying and you are trying to download it to install it, you will not be able to. You will say, no, this application is not downloaded. This, you have to upload the file into the internet, and when you will upload the internet, it will be what we can say, it will be converted, and I will download it again. Again, this is illegal. Although the application is allowed, but I don't know what's going on the internet. When you upload the data, can you guarantee that there is no copy of this data? It will be saved on the site? You don't know. But this means that it's a risk. You are creating a risk. Don't be surprised when you will find that with your data, it's leaked over the internet. What we have to do? We have to close these sites. Again, in enterprise organizations, they using the proxy server to stop all these sites. We're not allowed. Then this is very important, and I think you have to report this case into the service desk. This, it can represent a security breach. We have to find a resolution for it. It can use through DLP. It can be through security awareness. a lot of things which we can think about.
But
Okay.
Mr. Osama, one thing here for Brim.
Okay.
Shouldn't we here applying the labeling, sensitivity labeling, where you cannot expose any document outside, or label it as a confidential? That's why you will not be able to use that.
If they don't have a DLB, then they can export it normally without any problem. Yani if you have an application or a document, and this document it's classified as critical, okay. And even I have a metadata which it will define as critical. But if I don't have a DLB components,
Since it, no, I'm saying since it's already mentioned as a confidential, that means that it's already labeled as a confidential, or just a term you're saying. I understand it that it's since he's saying it's confidential, that means that it's labeled as a confidential.
okay, if it's labeled as confidential, you mean he
No,
should
one second.
also not to upload it.
No,
Yes.
one second. I think Mahmood, I think let me clarify it. It is so it is a, let's say it's an user manual, or it is a so the user manual access is actually given especially to people who have actually licensed the product, right? So the thing is that now as an employee, I can access actually all the user manuals of all the applications. So I'm downloading it, and or maybe I'm downloading a document which is in PDF, and I wanted to probably for readability, or probably we wanted to cull some information, I'm converting it into a Word document, and thereby I go to the internet and I actually use a free tool which actually converts the document from PDF to Word document. So my
Okay.
question here is that unknowingly that I do not know, and then I come out because my purpose is served because I wanted to paste certain portions and probably explain to some other client, and then it's finished. Okay.
Yeah, I got you.
So the point is that I am unknowingly leaving traces of actually a confidential document which could be probably misused. Because the app owner can probably use, or probably the website can use it, right? That's what I was just trying to say.
Okay, I got you. Got your question.
Okay, I have just because it's now 10, but I have two type of
I think, sir, I think we can take a break for today, and then probably as a recap, let's start again from I think the IAST.
No, I don't want to waste the time like that. It will not take a long time. We have the interactive application security testing, IAST, and it is application, it is monitoring. Someone here or some process, it will monitor the application while it is running. And it will continually scan and monitor for security vulnerabilities. When we said vulnerability assessment or vulnerability scanning, this means that I have a program as Qualys or whatever, it will run and it will scan. This I can run it every day, every week, whatever. But when we say interactive application security testing is interactive, I may have an agent which is installed on the application itself, and it will make continuous monitoring for the security vulnerabilities. Then if it will find the problem, then immediately it will update the user, or I mean update the administrator that there is a problem. The last test, it is the abuse case testing. Abuse case testing. Abuse case testing, gentlemen, it is the type or the method how you can abuse your application. How you can abuse your application. How you can try to do all the unauthorized actions for your application. This means that, for example, I am running a browser application. Then what will happen if I press back? If you push the back button, what will happen if I enter some thing which is not expected in some fields? What will happen if I try to overload the application? يعني they are saying, for example, you have a shop cart, and this shop cart can have up to 100 items. No one he will reach to up to 100 items. No one. But as a tester, I will try to make it 101, and I will check what will happen, and so on. Then I will do all possible non-authorized applications into my non-authorized actions into my application to check how it will act or behave when these unauthorized or unallowed actions it will be run in the real or in the live state. Okay. Now we finished the tests. Tests, gentlemen, it is very, 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 very important topic, and you will find a lot of these in the exam. Then please, testing, it is very important. You have to concentrate on the testing, because in the exam you will find a lot of questions about this. It is very important to understand the differences. It is very important to understand the difference, especially the first four: DAST, SAST, vulnerability scanning, penetration testing. Till this moment, I know people, we are confused between the difference between the vulnerability scanning and penetration testing. The new tests which we discussed later, it is very simple, but you have to understand its objectives. These are very important for the exam. It is very, very important. From my point of view, they are simple questions. You must not lose these questions, because you don't have any complicated scenarios or what we can say, yani, questions which you can complicated question. It will ask you, give you a scenario, then you have to think: is it black box? Is it white box? Is it DAST? Is it dynamic? Is it real time? And so on. Then this is very important to understand the differences between all these tests, gentlemen. This is very important for the exam. Don't lose these questions in the exam. Okay. Any questions before finishing our session?
No, I think probably, I think, sir, I think let us go through, I think if you send the recording and then let us go through the book. I think morning, I think before we start the quiz, I think if it's better that we have a small recap, then go for the quiz, because I think we might make mistakes in the quiz.
I don't care. Do
Okay.
mistakes in the quiz. What will happen? By the end of the day, the quiz, it want to show me what are the points which I have to stress on.
Okay.
Because if I try to make a recap, I will not be able to make a recap for 3 hours in 5 minutes. Then this means that I have to pass a lot of information. Then in the quiz, it will show me what are the points which you don't understand. Then this means that I have to repeat this information later.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good to have quiz questions around this concept, so we can see how we are able to give the answer.
Exactly. I think Sanath, you just complimented it correctly.
Sure, we will
But
do this tomorrow, inshallah.
yeah, thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thank you very much, and see you tomorrow. Bye.
Right.